This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast, a baseball podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters based in Syracuse, New York. Thank you so much for joining us. Off the top, want to wish everyone a happy MLK Day. And just read something that I saw that I really thought was interesting earlier today. This was an article from the National Baseball Hall of Fame website. And it said, essentially, baseball led the way on integration as Jackie Robinson became a key symbol of equality during the civil rights struggles of the 1960s. Robinson, of course, the first African-American to play in Major League Baseball in the modern era when he first played first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers. But what I did not know is that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is quoted as saying, "Jackie Robinson made my success possible. Without him, I would never have been able to do what I did." And then the article just continues to say, the magnitude of those words cannot be overstated. Dr. King's lasting work as a civil rights pioneer touched all areas of the American experience, yet he credited a baseball player with making his dreams viable. And I just have to say, I think that is really cool and yet another example of how sports truly can bring people together.
That's really lovely. That was a really lovely way to intro the show on Martin Luther King Day. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I didn't know that. Little fun fact.
I actually also, I didn't know, and I probably should have known that, but I actually didn't know that he played first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
I did know that. Just
I
because
think
I
that's
feel
pretty
like
cool.
Mets history is like the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll leave that at that. Otherwise, thankful to have you all here again today, and we are here under the conditions of discussing Tanner Scott, of course.
I cannot be expected to live, laugh, and love in these conditions. I can't. I can't. And you know what else? Before we get into it, I need to get something off of my chest. Mm-hmm. We have said multiple times, we read all of your comments, we go through them, don't always respond to all of them. What I have to say is we are going more in the direction of, it's still a Mets podcast, you know where our loyalties lie, but we're going more in the direction of biggest baseball, hot stove signings. And you know what? I hate to break it to you all. It just so happens the biggest hot stove signings this offseason have been the Mets and the Dodgers.
No, it's so true because people do come at us sometimes saying, like, is this a Dodgers podcast
It is
now?
not.
But, like, also, what do you want us to say? They won the World Series and then had pretty much the best offseason in a long time for any team.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are we to do?
Right.
I'm not sure what our other options are.
If the Padres signed Roki Sasaki, we would have touched on it. That's all I got to say.
If the Blue Jays sign somebody,
but they did. We'll get
to that after. For now, Tanner Scott. So John Heyman says the richest get even richer. Love that phrasing.
The richest. Very
awesome.
good. Very
Heater
good.
of a tweet. Tanner Scott goes to the Dodgers too. $72 million, 4 years. What are your initial thoughts?
It includes some deferred money yet again, $21 million deferred. My initial thoughts are, I'm not surprised. I honestly, after the Mets signed AJ Minter, I kind of thought that was the writing on the wall, right? Lefty reliever. Also, something that my dad kept pointing out to me throughout this process of Tanner Scott's free agency was that who's to say Tanner Scott was interested in being a setup man? Because on the New York Mets, that's likely what he would have been when you consider the fact that the Mets obviously have Edwin Diaz. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, Scott probably wanted to go somewhere and he wanted to be more of that, late inning closer role. So honestly, to be fully honest with you as well, like 4 years, $72 million for a receiver, for a reliever, you can kind of miss me with that. Like to me, that is I know he was, in that elite camp this offseason and last year. But relievers are so volatile with the seasons they have. They can have 2 really good years and then a down year. I mean, we've seen it with Diaz himself. To me, I'm not really that interested in paying $72 million for a reliever.
I think that's a fair point. Jeff Passan also said when Tanner Scott's deal is made official, the Dodgers' luxury tax payroll for 2025 will exceed $375 million. He didn't say milli. I just said that. That's about $70 million more than the next highest team, Philadelphia. The Yankees are the only other team with a CBT, aka competitive balance tax, payroll projected to be over $300 million. Money, money, money.
Money talks. But allegedly, Scott's, according to Pat Ragazzo, who makes frequent appearances on SNY, kind of a New York MLB insider, allegedly his preferred destination was the Cubs, but Chicago didn't want to go to 4 years until the final minutes, and the Dodgers already had a deal on the old table. So the Dodgers continue to win these things, whether it's from past relationships, whatever it may be, money in some of them, but we saw with Sasaki that wasn't the case. So the Dodgers just keep on winning. They just keep on stacking the wins.
Why not go to 4 years until the final closing minutes?
Right.
Too
How
little,
is that
too
the
late.
break? I know. I guess for a reliever, 4 years is a lengthy deal, but like, yeah.
My point is just if you're going to do it sooner.
Right.
Now the Dodgers won
Cubs
again.
were a little late. Could have used you there, Chicago. Could have used you.
Say.
So my opinion, I mean, I know Minter doesn't have quite the stats he has. I know Minter's coming off of a hip surgery and injury last year, but 2 years, $22 million looks pretty good in comparison to that contract, especially when you consider that only 3 lefty relievers have accumulated at least a 5.0 F WAR over the last 5 seasons. That is Josh Hader, Tanner Scott, and AJ Minter. So
that's a great stat.
I know that Scott was elite last year. I'm just saying.
No, it's a great stat. Dodgers fans, how are you feeling? Tap in. Let us know what you're thinking, not just about the Scott signing, but the entire offseason. Just want to kind of hear how the other side is feeling right now.
Can we just do a little offseason roundup for a second? I just got to go through the names. I know all of our Dodgers fans know this, but my, oh my. This offseason, the Dodgers signed Blake Snell, Roki Sasaki, Tanner Scott, Michael Conforto, former old friend, Hee-Sung Kim,
Hae-Sung Kim.
Hae-Sung Kim. Teoscar, and then they re-signed Teoscar Hernandez, Blake Trinan, and Tommy Edman. They won the World Series last year, and now you could argue that they're better. It really is like playing just an all-star team. You know what I'm interested in? We never get into like sports betting on this podcast. That's just a realm that we're not really in right now. But if you like bet daily, like MLB games, like is there ever going to be a line this year where the Dodgers are not the favorites?
Yeah, that
sincerely.
No, that's a really interesting point. Would love to know out of all the regular season games.
Out of 162 games, are the Dodgers going to be the underdog in any of them? I mean, like maybe if they throw a bullpen game, even then, I don't know.
On the road, I would have to see. I got to see how it all plays out. See what other teams, because we've discussed this on previous episodes, but what teams are going to be great, what teams are going to be those sleeper teams who nobody expected was going to be maybe as good as they are. But I get the point. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And although we can't speak for the Dodgers fans, that's why we want you to comment. We do have some tweets of the week from some other people on the other side who are not anti-Dodgers, but just not Dodgers fans.
Yeah.
This one comes from Kelly Franco. It says, Tanner Scott to the Dodgers. I don't even know what to say. Actually, I do, but they are all bad words. And I felt that.
That was one of our tweets of the week because that's exactly how I felt. She just put it into words. I don't even know what to say anymore with the Dodgers stick, but I know that they're all bad words.
Right. Is it unfair? Am I just, going to go out and just kind of scream at the
I'm just up to here. I've hit the point of like disassociation.
The 5 stages of grief, and I've just circled back around at this point. I'm at acceptance, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And then there's also one from Good Fundies.
Yeah.
The Mets went to the NLCS last year, signed the best free agent on the market this decade to the richest deal in professional sports history, and have rounded out the roster nicely, but still people are crashing out about Tanner Scott. Get a grip. Stop whining for likes.
Can I just say something? Get a grip is my favorite underrated insult. Like if somebody looks at you and tells you to get a grip, you better lock in.
You better get a damn grip.
Like get a grip is so impactful. Get a grip. Oh my God.
You know what that reminds me of? It's giving to me, and someone told me about this a few years ago, and I've honestly never looked back. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you can say the F word and they'll see that you mouthed it.
Sure.
But that doesn't hit as hard as this. Somebody cuts me off and it really was their fault. I give them one of these.
Is that what you give them?
Yep.
Okay.
No words, nothing.
I thought we were going another direction.
No,
there.
Sincerely, thumbs down, because I want you to know I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. And that's what get a grip to me means.
Get a grip.
You need to, okay, first of all, I am trying, Ashley, to get a grip. And I just...
I need to start using get a grip more in my everyday life. That is an underrated
I feel like you do. I can envision you being like, oh, get a grip. She doesn't talk like that, but you know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Anyway. I actually like second to none. Stop whining for likes. I'm just gonna like reply that to some people's comments from now on.
And crashing out. And crashing out was in there.
It's just a well-worded tweet.
It's just a great tweet. That's why it's our tweet of the week. Yeah, honestly, a lot of Mets fans were crashing out over Tanner Scott. I can't say I crashed out. Like you said, I'm at the point of acceptance.
I can say at some point I crashed out, but I think
it was pre-Tanner Scott.
That's my point. And it's not just Tanner Scott.
Right.
Like he's saying they're crashing out about Tanner Scott. Well, people are crashing out because look at the damn list.
I think Sasaki might have been my crash out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Tanner Scott is the final bullet. Like it's just one of those. I'm sorry.
But
I'm sorry. But you know what I
it
mean?
was coming.
Right. Like it's tough, you know?
Yeah.
So listen. All is fair in love and sports. It is what it is. I know.
All right. But here's a point I have to make right now. Forget about being a Mets fan. All right. Things seem pretty bad if you're a Mets fan. I would like to enlighten, and I'm sure we have a few Padres fans who listen to this podcast. Imagine being a Padres fan from the simple fact that A, you never win. I mean, you have won before, but not in a little while. B, think about this for a second. The Padres traded their number 2, number 4, number 5, and number 24 prospects to acquire Tanner Scott at the trade deadline. They then advanced to the NLDS, where obviously the Dodgers beat them and then went on to win the World Series. Then the Dodgers signed Tanner Scott in free agency and their old ace, Blake Snell. If I'm the Padres and I just traded 3 of my top 5 prospects for Tanner Scott and then the Dodgers go out and sign him in free agency, like, what are we doing?
That's legitimately diabolical.
Get a grip.
Get a grip. Like, you guys don't know this because you can't feel it, but it's like legitimately, for whatever reason, like 50 degrees in this studio, and that was still the coldest thing I heard today.
It's like 30. It's really cold.
What do you think legit?
No, I like really think it might be like...
That's like 45.
40, yeah. Also, for context, in Syracuse this week, the wind chills is supposed to feel like -10 and -20. So we're fighting on.
It's just a cold building. But that's colder.
Right.
That's colder.
Right.
What you just mentioned.
What the Dodgers did to the Padres is
that's
a little colder.
Yeah. Yep. And you also put here, which I do think is an interesting point. Thanks everybody for locking in when we were talking about the salary cap a little bit. A lot of people were saying they'd like to see a salary floor, and I would like to hear more from you guys about exactly why that is. But I like what you put here, so I'll let you say that.
Yeah, honestly, as I was reading your comments saying that, and I've also seen that idea promoted a little more on social media this week in light of the Dodgers spending spree, I don't really think that's a bad idea, right? Because you can't you can, because we see it in other professional sports leagues, but it's hard to stop, I feel like, the rich from getting richer when they do have the richest owners in terms of the Dodgers, the Mets, the Phillies, the Yankees. Those are just teams, like, as much as we want to sit here and rant and rave about what the Dodgers are doing, the Dodgers are just trying to capitalize on their championship window, stack as many world championships as they can in this window of this great team and great talent that they've amassed.
As they should.
Maybe, in a way, it's easier to have to force the smaller market teams to spend a certain amount and honestly promote the fan experience and promote baseball in those smaller market cities. How easy is that to actually implement? I don't know. Would that, in my mind, be better for the sport than a salary cap? Maybe, because it's you're promoting that need to spend and that interest in baseball in those smaller cities. I'll keep saying it, but your Cincinnati's, your Milwaukee's, your places like that. I don't know.
I mean, end of the day, certainly better for the fans.
Right.
You know,
right.
That's just a no-brainer. But yeah, I know. I have to think more. I have to do some reflecting in a quiet place to decide what I think needs to happen with this sport. But I'm not the kind of person that's sitting here thinking the Dodgers will rue the day when they did X, Y, and Z, because that's exactly what they should be doing. Like, they earned it. Of course, a lot of people are going to want to go there. And like you said, they're capitalizing on a great season. Can't really be mad at them for that, but have to figure out another way to... I don't know. I don't even want to say that, though. Should I be like, oh, there has to be a way to even the scales? Like, they're not doing anything wrong.
Right. I think as a Mets fan, knowing how it felt to live through the Wilpon years and have that be your introduction to a fan base, like the Mets operated like a small market team for years and years under the Wilpons. Forget about operating like a New York big market team.
Old friend Wilpons?
Old friend, the Wilpons. That was a good old friend. forget about operating like a New York team, like one of the teams that plays in the top markets in the country. They just operated like a straight up small market team and refused to spend all the time. I mean, there were years in the 2000s when it was like the biggest Mets free agent signing of the offseason was some guy that was going to play left bench. Like, I just, not really. That was a joke.
Left bench.
That was a joke. But you know what I mean. It was, if you look at the offseason comparisons to now, it was crazy. So what I'm trying to say is, in a way, I feel like Mets fans understand and relate to that experience of small market teams, and it's not a fun one. So maybe a salary floor or a salary minimum isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, let's keep discussing that. Let's keep talking about it in the comments. In the meantime, should I return my Pete Alonso jersey or should
not?
I keep it?
Ooh, Alonso gate. This is what we're gonna.
What do you honestly think, though? Like, without obviously knowing what's going to happen, like, if you were me, would you keep the jersey or would you return it if you had until tomorrow to decide?
Honestly, right now, I feel like I'd keep it, but I don't know why I feel that way. So this is rumors. Like, disclaimer on this segment, rumors. So Robert Murray, who was an author for Fanside, it started to go around Mets Twitter today, allegedly wrote this on Thursday, which is when all the stuff about Alonso came out, that he was not returning to the Mets. So did he write this before? Did he write this after? I don't know. I don't know if it's fact or fiction. Just bear with me. He said the reality is that Alonso returning to the Mets is still on the table. The two sides have talked recently, and it's clear that each side is the best fit for each other. Andy Martino said today, still getting a lot of questions about Mets and Alonso. Nothing meaningful has changed since previous reporting. Probably not something worth talking or thinking about much at present. To me, I don't know what's going on.
Sentiments.
I know. And that's, I feel like Martino kind of shooting down what was going around on Mets Twitter today. To me, do I think it's dead? I feel like if I had to make a bet right now, I'd say no. The door's like cracked open and there's like a little sunlight coming through. But do I feel like both sides are rather offended and not on really great terms with each other? Yeah. Do I feel like if Alonso came back to the Mets right now and said, yes, I'll take your 3 years, 68 million, 70 million with opt-outs or whatever, I'll do it. Do I feel like the Mets would say no? No. But do I know that to be true? Maybe the Mets are pissed off. I don't know.
My takeaway from this, and this is just a guess, but I would say the truth is somewhere in between the middle of those two stories. I mean, honestly, even in just thinking about, obviously, as you all know, we work in sports media, so we've dealt with, the quote unquote PR specialists for the teams before. And I do feel like how many
PR specialists
stop. And I do feel like how many times has something like this happened where it's been like, no, nothing's happening.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all off the table. And then 3 days later, something happens.
We have some old friends in this town who are PR specialists. But that's an interesting point because also everything that the Mets have done this offseason has been under wraps. If you notice a theme here, nothing about what the Mets have done concretely has gotten leaked. Soto didn't get leaked. Nothing's gotten leaked. Minter was out of left field. The things that the Mets actually do and sign this offseason have not gotten leaked.
Pretty locked down.
Yeah.
So who truly knows what's happening until it happens?
And you know what? I still think that we said our Pete Alonso piece in our 2 episodes ago in Pass on Pete, that whole thing when it came out last week. Do I still think that both sides are the best option for both parties?
Yes.
Yes. Maybe aside from a possible Vlad Guerrero trade. That's my only caveat. But considering he's not a free agent right now, in this free agency market, yeah, I think those two sides are the best for each other.
I agree. Plus, I also feel like still when you think about Soto, and even the way that Pete Alonso would fit in with Soto.
Needing protection.
And the lineup.
The Mets don't have a 4-hitter right now. That's just the truth.
And they need one.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Ashley's last bullet says, and when you consider the only other teams that have been linked to him are the Angels and the Blue Jays, ... And then we have our Blue Jays signing.
The Blue Jays finally signed someone. Let's give it up for the good old Blue Jays. I mean, how about it? I saw a meme.
They're getting married.
I know, they did it. They're engaged. I saw a meme that was on Twitter today that had, it was like the Blue Jays execs when Santander came to them and was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I'll do the deal. And it was the Blue Jays execs like peering around a corner being like, really? Like they were shocked.
It's so funny. No, but it is so true. Yes, so outfielder Anthony Santander is going to the Blue Jays. 5-year deal. It's for at least $92.5 million guaranteed with the potential to get up to $110 with the option involved. That's per source. There's a team option for the 6th season. There's deferred money included. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that. The Blue Jays did it. Congratulations to the Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays got a guy to go up to good old Toronto. By the way, I made a crack about Toronto last week. Toronto's a great city, so I wasn't saying it in terms of that. It's just, it is in terms of baseball, it's isolated.
I'm honestly going to double down. Like, Toronto is a great city.
Great city. Love it there.
But end of the day, like, why would you want to play there when it's not a Canadian league?
It's isolated.
It's giving FOMO.
Yeah, right.
I want to go to the party and feel like I'm there.
Exactly.
I sort of feel like I'm just on the outside looking in if I'm playing in Toronto.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Also, to think about Santander in the scheme of Alonso, right? If the Blue Jays are linked to Alonso, and now they just signed Santander, a guy who's comparable to Alonso in many ways with his power numbers and just as a hitter, right? Obviously he's not a first baseman, but if you see Santander get that, I'm not feeling all too confident that Toronto's also signing Alonso. I mean, maybe they are. I don't work for the Toronto Blue Jays, but that to me is we know.
You work against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, right. I do. I'm not giving the Blue Jays positive PR this week. That to me is not a good sign for good old Petey. Like if I'm Pete and I saw that news today,
You know what? I'm going to hold on to my jersey for now.
Yeah, hold on to the jersey, I think.
I'll hold on to the jersey.
Hold on
it's
to the jersey.
It's black. It's retro. It's awesome. I'm going to keep it.
The black jerseys are the best jerseys, They really are.
There is really nothing else you can say about that, right?
Oh,
There's
to
no
wear
debate.
to a game, also, like, especially I feel like if you're a woman, like, to wear to a game, the black jerseys are the most stylish.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Because the white ones, I have to say, I have one, and I don't really like it that much from a wearing standpoint.
Me neither. It doesn't look that good.
Miss me with that.
Yeah, also, Petey, if you're looking at the market, this is the last thing I'll say on the Santander thing. If Santander got 5 years for $92.5 million, like, Pete, what do you think, again, circling back around to this point, what do you think your market is?
What do you want from me?
What do you want from me? You want that for 3 years? Why should you get, like, double to triple, like, the annual value that he's getting? I just don't understand where Pete Alonso's head is at right now. Pete, I need you to just come to terms with the fact that you're not worth as much as you think you are.
Come on home, buddy.
Get a grip.
Get a grip.
Literally, no, Pete Alonso needs to get a grip.
End scene. And for our kicker, former All-Star third baseman Evan Longoria, is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Commented on a post of the Mets' projected 2025 lineup with the caption, "Could be great, but hammer the over on clubhouse fights."
What? I saw that, and that was just odd. Like, you ever see something from an athlete on social media where you're just like, that doesn't really add up, and that's strange.
I think it's odd that he's an athlete and he commented at all, quite honestly.
Well, that too, right. I think he's, like, been out of the league for a year or two. Right. He was in the league for a long time. Start a podcast, maybe. Evan Longoria. No, just kidding. We don't need more people with mics in front of them. Anyways, Longoria was always in... Let me take you on a journey to where my hatred with Evan Longoria started. Nobody asked for this story, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So, Evan Longoria...
You have quite the list of enemies.
Evan Longoria is an old friend. When I was growing up, it would always be for... Well, he was on the Rays for a long time. So obviously he was in the American League. But it would always be for like MLB's best third baseman. It would be between Evan Longoria and David Wright. And so childhood Ashley got to grow a real hatred for Evan Longoria because he would win more often than not in terms of those discussions. And it would really just...
I'm envisioning like a small little blondie in front of the TV like...
No, literally. And I would make my dad buy please someone validate me in the comments and tell me you know what I'm talking about. I would make him buy me every year the Lindy's, like baseball preview magazine, because I had a fantasy baseball team at like age 8. We've touched on this before.
We've been down that road.
It was called the Bleeding Blue and Orange. And I would draft... And I would draft David Wright first every single year, even when he was old and washed up. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, the point is...
Everyone's like, Ashley, don't draft your favorite player. She's like, but exactly. I will, though.
And I've told this story. It was a league of 45-year-old men. It was all of my dad's friends and Rich's daughter, which they must have thought was real annoying. And the Bleeding Blue and Orange. But you know what? We held our own. Anyway, the point is, he would buy me this Lindy's magazine, which I still buy every year when it comes out in February. The old-time magazines. I call up Barnes & Noble. I ask them if they have the Lindy's yet. And in the third base category, it ranks every player by position, gives a little blurb on them. Evan Longoria would always be 1, and David Wright would always be 2.
Should have drafted him.
No, no, it's not where my loyalties lie. Anyways, the point on Evan Longoria is circling back to this after I told that whole story. I don't understand that from him. Hammer the over on clubhouse fights. It's like mostly the same lineup as last season, and the Mets had like the best culture in all of baseball, the Grimace and the OMG and the concerts on the field. Like, what do you mean hammer the over on clubhouse fights?
I mean, the only thing I can think is how Soto shakes it all up.
It has to be Soto.
But the weird thing is, I don't envision Soto as the type to be starting anything.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know. He doesn't even seem that fiery. Maybe I just don't know enough about him. So definitely somebody let me know if I'm.
He seems that fire. He seems very passive.
Like there are a lot of people on the Yankees who I'm like miss me, or I just don't really feel like I'd like personality wise. Simply like I wouldn't want to get a drink with them in a bar. It would not interest me. I wouldn't want to do it.
No.
But like I don't feel that way about Soto.
Soto to me
He's pretty pleasant.
Seems unproblematic.
To
At
me.
the start. Maybe I'll take that back in July. I don't know.
I mean Winker or somebody. He's
fiery.
problematic.
Yeah, Winker's a little problematic. I don't know. That was just an interesting comment, and for someone who was around baseball
Alonso?
for so long, but he wasn't in the projected lineup because he's not on the team. I don't know. I mean, Evan Longoria, we do have to. I mean, he was around a long time. He played in the league for like 16 years, only retired a year or two ago. So you'd have to think he knows some of these guys personally. I just really am intrigued by what exactly he meant by that. He definitely didn't mean like the combo of Lindor and Soto, because it was reported wildly that Lindor tried to recruit Soto. Yeah, that makes no sense. I don't know. Vientos is fresh up. Alvarez is fresh up. Like Brandon Nimmo is like the nicest guy you've ever met in your life.
No, he's not. He's not starting anything.
No,
he's like donating to charity and.
Brandon Nimmo is a golden retriever.
Yeah. I am confused by that, and I think after this podcast concludes tonight, I'm going to go reply to him and say, "What do you mean by that?"
We're going to do a deeper dive.
Hopefully, he responds
to Evan Longoria.
Yeah. Just to see.
Hopefully, he doesn't watch, because I just like trash talked him for like 20 minutes.
If you guys have any idea of what you think he means by that, would actually love to know. Anything else, and then we'll get out of here.
Not really. We'll be back at it again if the Dodgers sign someone else, or if anybody else cares to. We'll see you later this week.
Yeah, so please keep that in mind. We are not just doing Dodgers signing, so enough of those allegations. If so,
enough.
Did you hear us talking about the Blue Jays today? Huh?
We're happy for the Blue Jays.
We're happy for them, and we're happy for anybody who gets a great signing, and we'll continue to try and talk about that, because sincerely, we are trying to expand to really just become a baseball podcast. We hear you all, we know that's what you want, and we're going to give it to you, because that's what this podcast does.
And there's a ton of other free agents out there that are still unsigned.
Yep. So stick with us. You can find us anywhere, social media, maybe not TikTok, who the hell knows, but Instagram, all the other platforms. Otherwise, we'll see you back here when the next big thing happens. Thanks for sticking with us.